Yeah, because previous prime minister did ABC, so I had to get tough. Even so, Keir recognized that people had also expected more than just tough stuff from a new government. Here we go now. We're getting on to him blaming the male models. He accepts his gloomy speech in the Downing Street garden last summer, where he warned things will get worse before they get better, was a mistake. It squeezed the hope out, he says. We were so determined to show how bad it was that we forgot people wanted something to look forward to as well. He does not write a single word of his speeches, folks. He barely even looks at them before he reads them. He's just completely robotic. The bigger puzzle is why a prime minister so clearly aware of how shallow the water in politics can be has allowed his government to spend so much of the past year face down in it. Because he's an absolute hypocrite. They all are. In the first few weeks after the election, office politics inside Downing Street seemed elevated above any other priority. There was an extraordinary amount of anonymous briefing aimed at his then Chief of Staff, Sue Gray, who had swiftly amassed enemies among both civil servants and political advisors. Some of the claims made about Gray, such as her banning political advisors from using government tea bags, were untrue or exaggerated. And many of the biggest early errors, including the Treasury's decision to scrap winter fuel payments for most pensioners, were not her fault. Ooh, is she one of the fall people? Yet, even before his government was 100 days old, the woman who had supposed to make it all work was removed, off with her head, and replaced by the Labour election strategist Morgan McSweeney. So, yeah, she was a fall person for Starmer, who insists he never fell out with her and is clearly reluctant to open it all now. Quote, not everyone thought it was a good idea when I appointed her. He says icily, it was my call, my judgment, my decision, and I got that wrong. Sue wasn't the right person for this job. He then talks about the row over accepting expensive clothes for the election campaign and tickets to watch Arsenal and see Taylor Swift concerts with his family. He's adamant this controversy shouldn't have festered for weeks because no rules were broken, no public money spent, no favors given in return. And while critics said he didn't understand politics enough to realize how bad it looked, he points out that optics are not the same as substance. Substance is something that he lacks. What really got under his skin was not that his own integrity had been questioned, but that sections of the media started calling his wife Lady Victoria Sponger because she had received about 5,000 worth of clothes. Looking back now, he admits part of the problem is that I got emotionally involved. One thing I'm reasonably good at is usually staying calm, but when they dragged Vic into it through no fault of her own, that made me angry. We're going to get to the Rent Boys stuff soon, folks. We're just reading the puff piece, building up to it. Right. Leeds in January, 2 large cars with tinted black windows drove through the south side of Leeds before coming to a halt outside. House didn't get many visitors. Grey-haired, casually dressed man emerged. Starmer asked his armed police bodyguards to wait behind the glass-fronted door. The Prime Minister got to work cleaning the bathroom and toilets. The house belonged to his younger brother, Nick, who died on Boxing Day. All right, yeah. So they're creating more empathy here for him through the deceased. Obviously, our hearts go out to anyone who's lost a loved one. Let me go forward a little bit more so we can get closer to the Rent Boys. All right, so we're in a different world. We just have to deal with it. This is to do with his dealings with Trump before the White House meeting on 27th of February. Starmer saw no point in loudly proclaiming positions when what matters is actions and not words. Absolute inversion. When I asked what it was like in the Oval Office, Starmer's eyes slide sideways. Well, interesting. I signed the visitor's book, and then before we had really started talking, Trump says, let's get the press in, and we're conducting a bilateral in front of the media with him taking questions from literally anyone. What might have gone otherwise wrong was demonstrated by the very next day when Zelensky was goaded, when they had the beef with Trump in the White House. In the hours after, Starmer didn't join other European leaders in posting condemnation of the US president on social media. Instead, pictures of Starmer locked in a warm embrace with Zelensky. Yeah, absolutely up Zelensky's rear end. Normally, I'd wait on the step to greet him, but I was really conscious that he'd left the White House on his own. That's why I walked towards him and gave him a sort of hug. It's also why I walked him out to the car at the end. I wanted him to know that you don't leave my house on your own. Yeah, so Keir Starmer, all the globalists care about, folks. I don't know if this is the right order of priority. All the globalists care about is war, vaccines, PETA, human transportation, and anything else you guys could put in the chat. Please remind me. War, they love. Oh, migrants, illegal migration. They're the four main things they like in the world. So, of course, Starmer's up Zelensky's rear with all of this war business. All right, we'll skip this bit and get over to the Rent Boys, where he blames the Rent Boys, because it's just on and on of praising Zelensky. So he's saying that he did the speech. Let me find it. There we go. From Tom Baldwin's interview with Starmer. And if those responsible for the arson attack probably didn't realize how important Starmer's front door was to how he viewed the world, setting it on fire had an immediate effect on politics. So we're going from the back door to the front door and back to the back door. The Prime Minister, who had arrived back from a 3-day trip to Ukraine the night before, was due to unveil the government's new immigration policy that morning. It's fair to say I wasn't in the best state to make a big speech. I was really, really worried. I almost said, I won't do the bloody press conference. Vic was really shaken up, as, in truth, was I. It was just a case of reading the words out and getting through it somehow, so I could get back to them. The Prime Minister's words included a long section on the importance of having fair rules and that give shape to our values and hold diverse nations such as Britain together. But then he went on to warn that without such rules, we risk becoming an island of strangers. To many ears, that sounded a lot like Enoch Powell's infamous Rivers of Blood speech half a century earlier, when he said Britain's white population would be strangers in their own country. The left denounced his speech as shameful and warned Starmer was dancing to the populist Reform UK's party's tune. Starmer insists none of that is true. The speech was simply a mistake. I wouldn't have used those words if I had known they were or even be interpreted as an echo of Powell. I had no idea, and my speechwriters didn't know either, but that particular phrase, no, it wasn't right. I'll give you the honest truth. I deeply regret using it. So he's saying that he acknowledges that the Rent Boys came to the property where his sister-in-law was housed. This is a very long article, folks. Let me try and find that bit. He acknowledges the Rent Boys came and that the fire could have been very different. It could have ended with his sister-in-law in hospital or getting seriously burnt or dying. And the effect of that on him meant that when he was given his speech, his mind was discombobulated because of the firebomb attack. So he didn't read his speech properly, and hence it's all the Rent Boys' fault. Now, I found the exact part, subtitled Kentish Town, May. In the small hours of the 12th of May this year, there was a firebomb attack on the Starmer family home. His sister-in-law had been renting the house since he became Prime Minister. She was upstairs with her partner when the front door was set alight. She happened to be still awake. Starmer said, so she heard the noise and got the fire brigade, but it could have been a different story. Before the election, he regarded that door as the gateway between what he called real life and the slightly weird one into which he had landed. As soon as I walk through the door, I am just dad, he said. His home was a space preserved for family where he could be the person he was before he entered politics and perhaps remind himself of why he had done so in the first place. And if those responsible for the arson attack probably didn't realize how important Starmer's front door was, because they were only, I'm going to add, they were only privy to the back door, perhaps allegedly. How important Starmer's front door was to how he viewed the world, setting it on fire had an immediate effect on politics. So, can you believe Keir Starmer is now directly resurrecting the Rent Boy story? The Prime Minister had arrived back from a 3-day trip to Ukraine the night before, was due to unveil the government's new immigration policy that morning. And because of the attack by the male models, he wasn't in the best state to make the speech. And his speech got blasted. But Keir Starmer would like to add that he's not using the firebomb attack as an excuse. And he's not blaming his advisors or anyone else except himself for these mistakes. He said he should have read through the speech properly and held it up to the light a bit more. So not only does he not write his own speeches, he doesn't even read them, folks. He's so busy kowtowing to his globalist masters, he doesn't even have time to read the pieces of paper that are passed to him from his masters. The Prime Minister accepts there were problems with the language in his foreword to the policy document that said record high numbers of immigrants entering the UK under the last government have done incalculable damage to the country. So he's got problems with his own words because he hadn't read his own words before he parroted them out. Starmer says the issue needs to be addressed because the party, quote, became too distant from working class people on things like immigration. He accepts this wasn't the way to do it in this current environment. This is insane. This is insane. He's faulting his own speech that he didn't read and the Rent Boys for parroting garbage that was poorly accepted, but adding the caveat that he's not blaming anyone and he is taking responsibility while blaming everyone and not taking responsibility. This guy's just one big circle. Perhaps the best proof that his words were accidental is that they stand out as an exception to how he has led his government since Labour's defeat to Nigel Farage's party in the Runcorn and Aylesbury by-election on the 1st of May. As with a previous defeat at the hands of BJ Tories in Hartlepool, the loss has had a cathartic effect on Starmer. No leader moves forward seamlessly without making mistakes, he says. Oh my goodness. No leader's made as many mistakes as you. Oh, actually, they're not mistakes. You're just trying to shove the globalist agenda down our throats, aren't you? Going back on all of your campaign promises, because the definition of a politician, someone who says the public, whatever the public wants to hear to get the votes, and then answers to your lobbyists and globalists as soon as you get in power. Quote, but if you look back at what happened in 2021, it was when I resolved we were never making the same mistake again. If there's one thing about me, it's that I learn. He's a self-learning, bespectacled, globalist maggot worm. Oh, he's claiming this is what makes him effective. Like someone crossing a minefield, he takes a step backwards to the left and the right before moving. Oh my God, I'm going to throw up. I'm going to throw up. It may look inelegant or uninspiring, but it's probably the best way of getting to the other side. All right, folks, enough of that. So we have got coming on June the 30th at 2 p.m. Gawain Towler, cultural commentator, international political strategist, former director of communications for Reform UK, was formerly the communications director for the Brexit Party and for UKIP before that. He's going to be talking about mass immigration, stopping immigrant boats, Rwanda deportations, machete-wielding thugs, the police and two-tier and censorship, grooming gangs, Keir Starmer, war, lobbyists, and is there possibly going to be a civil war or more riots? How Keir Starmer has been destroying the UK. And then tonight we have got Kevin Annett coming on at 8 p.m. So get your questions ready for Kevin Annett, folks. And we hope to see some of you then. I've also reached out to Kit Clarenberg to come on to talk about this latest Starmer story. So until next time, I will